Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler in my home office for a quick Saturday vlog. Updates in the Daniel Penny trial out of New York State. First things first, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Get the hell out of New York, pack up your stuff, sell your businesses, move to a state that has not turned into a commie hellhole. Get out of New York State, that's the preamble. But the updates in the prosecution, or I dare say the persecution of Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny is the Marine who subdued one Jordan Neely, a man with a criminal rap sheet that is relatively long that included assaulting women unprovoked on New York subway stations between 2019 and 2022. Jordan Neely, a man with a violent criminal record, a history of mental illness and drug addiction, who had unprovoked assaults on women in the subway system of New York, but none on that metro car on that particular day, where Daniel Penny subdued Jordan Neely as he was acting psychotic, threatening people on the train, saying that he was ready to go to jail for life, and he was subdued by Daniel Penny, put into a chokehold, which was not really a chokehold, and he subsequently died, and Daniel Penny was charged with second-degree manslaughter as the bigger charge, and criminally negligent homicide as the lesser charge. Both are felonies. The second-degree manslaughter punishable by up to 14 years in prison, and the criminally negligent homicide up to 4 years in prison. At first, Daniel Penny wasn't even charged, but then the internet mob, led by such radicals as AOC, started chanting for his arrest, his persecution, and then Alvin Bragg, Soros-funded, corrupt to the core Alvin Bragg, decides he's going to prosecute what would otherwise be a hero. And by the accounts of the other people on that subway car, was in fact a hero. They decide to charge the hero with these two charges, and now he's going through with this politically motivated persecution in the commie hellhole that is New York State.
Thank you so very much.
AOC, what do you think about Governor DeSantis calling Penny a good Samaritan?
I think you should read a Bible. Thank you.
Yeah. AOC. Oh. There you go. Thank you.
Daniel Penny had his trial. Some interesting facts were revealed during the trial, such as the fact that Jordan Neely didn't in fact die right after the alleged chokehold. He died later in the evening, that he was loaded up with drugs. I think it's called K or something. He was loaded up with drugs and he subsequently died, yet they still decided to prosecute and persecute Daniel Penny. But the real drama, the real unbelievable sort of corruption in this entire process, no surprise coming out of the commie hellhole that is New York State, is coming from the commie judge, who is not content with letting the jury be hung on the bigger charge and had tried something very, very suspicious, but led to a little bit of confusion on the interwebs. The trial occurred, closing arguments had occurred, and the jury was in, I think it was entering their third or fourth day of deliberations, when they were unable to come to a unanimous verdict on the second-degree manslaughter charge, obviously because it was never second-degree manslaughter in the first place. But set that aside, there are some radicals on the jury. You don't know if it's 11 who want to acquit and one radical who wants to convict, although there is an image of the jury, because it's one of those drawing things showing the jury, and some might have some suspicion as to who the one holdout for a conviction might be. Spoiler alert, I think he might be wearing a face mask 4 years out of COVID. So the jury has been unable to reach a unanimous decision on the second-degree manslaughter charge, and the judge does what the judge is required to do, issue, I think it's called an Allen order, which is go back and try to reach a unanimous verdict, and if you can't, we're going to declare a hung jury on the bigger charge. But the judge doesn't quite do just that. He does a little something more that led to a lot of suspicion, a lot of outrage, and a lot of it is totally justified. But I'm going to try to offer a little bit of clarity, because I had to make sense of it myself so that people can understand what exactly is going on coming Monday, where the jury comes back to deliberate on the second lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. This is coming from Inner City Press, at Inner City Press on X, who is doing an X thread type coverage because it's not being broadcast. This trial, ADA Assistant District Attorney Yoran, don't tell them it's an acquittal on count one, only that it's dismissed. Penny's lawyer Kniff, this has never been done before. It would encourage prosecutors to overcharge in the grand jury with the option of withdrawing if hung under coercion. Judge Wiley, I'll take a chance and grant the people's application. I'm going to let them go to return and consider count two on Monday. Bring them in, jury entering. Judge, manslaughter in the second degree is dismissed. You are free to consider count two on Monday. What's up? I'm doing a video. Get those. I'll be there in a second. And Phil Holloway at Phil Holloway ESQ. To understand why Daniel Penny trial is a farce, check this out from the Kangaroo Court, where the judge is going to, quote, take a chance, end quote, and go along with Bragg's jury coercion scheme. The DA, the district attorney, didn't even, and I think there's a typo, want the jury to know the dismissal was tantamount to acquittal. So here's where the judicial corruption comes into play in that commie hellhole state of New York, which has seen other judicial corruption, such as the E. Jean Carroll persecution of Donald Trump and the Leticia James persecution of Donald Trump, oddly enough, under Alvin Bragg as well. This is the judicial corruption here, is that if there is a hung jury on one of the charges, in theory, the state can recharge and have another trial. Retry on that charge for which there was a hung jury. And I guess the corrupt thinking of this commie judge out of that commie hellhole state of New York is that if he clearly explains this to the jury, they might feel empowered to also acquit or come to a hung jury on the second lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. So he wants them to convict on the lesser charge, and so wants to sort of conceal the fact from them that he is basically allowing the prosecution to dismiss the bigger charge, which would mean that there's double jeopardy and Daniel Penny cannot be retried for that first charge. And just to make sure that I am explaining this properly and clearly, if the charge is dismissed, the first bigger charge, then there is double jeopardy that is attached to it, and Daniel Penny cannot be retried for that charge. However, if it's a hung jury, then he can be retried for it, but the judge wants to conceal from the jury the nature of the setting aside of the first bigger charge, doesn't want to explain to them that it's being dismissed and that he cannot be retried for that because he wants to coerce out of them a conviction on the second and lesser charge. Do not specifically and clearly explain to the jury the legal consequences of the dismissal of the primary bigger charge, the second-degree manslaughter, because then they might feel empowered not to come to a unanimous verdict on the lesser charge. So let them think that there's something of a potential setting aside on the basis of a hung jury or whatever. Don't tell them that it's been dismissed full stop, because then they might not be amenable to convicting on the lesser charge. That's what the judge is trying to do, and, quote, take a chance and grant the people's application. And if it wasn't already sufficiently clear, we can now go back and read part one of the tweet from Inner City Press to fully understand exactly what the prosecution and the judge are trying to do here in order to coerce something of a compromised verdict out of the jury. Let's go back and read that first tweet from Inner City Press. Assistant District Attorney Yoran, don't tell them it's an acquittal on count one, only that it's dismissed. Judge Wiley, I'll take a chance and grant the people's application. Don't tell the jury that it's basically an acquittal on the first bigger charge, because that might induce them to also come to an acquittal on the second lesser charge. Let them think somehow it's just been dismissed. We don't really know what the legal consequences are, but coerce them into nonetheless finding guilt on the second lesser charge, because at least then they can still lock up Daniel Penny, a hero, for up to 4 years. Oh yeah, and almost as important, make sure that you are subscribed, that you have notifications turned on. Drop a comment in the comment section because it feeds the algorithm, but that is the state of affairs right now. Count one has been dismissed. He cannot be retried for it. It's not clear if the jury knows that, and they've been sent to go back and come back on Monday to deliberate on the second and lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. And the judge has decided to take a chance and go ahead with the assistant district attorney's scheme here. And I love the way they call it the people's application. This application is not on behalf of the people. It's an application on behalf of a corrupt commie state. A corrupt commie state with its corrupt commie judges and its corrupt commie prosecutors who are funded by corrupt commies like George Soros. So that is it, to be discussed in greater detail on tomorrow's show. As at the time of shooting this vlog, Sunday night, Viva and Barnes Law for the People. Deliberations go back on Monday on the second charge. We'll see what happens. Apparently the jury members have been paying attention to the news, so there's that also. This entire trial has been a wild miscarriage of justice, but that has never slowed New York State down. Get out of New York State, people. Take your businesses, take your assets, leave that state until there's new administration, because right now it's corrupt commie administration. And if you like what I do, you know what to do. Exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!
AOC all out crazy. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hasn't been in a subway in a month of Sundays. She's protected by armed guards now. What would she know, and what would the other politicians know? Come into my world. Ride the subways. It's like Dante's Inferno with all the emotionally disturbed persons there. Let's get them out. Let's give them the help. And stop blaming a hero like this U.S. Marine that we all should be thanking. We should be saying, thank you, Penny, for risking your life, getting involved, and daring to care.